Hello everybody, Connor here, and welcome back to another episode of Gaming Retrospective. Halloween is right around the corner, and you know what that means. It's that time of year where we turn off the lights, grab some snacks, and willingly freak ourselves out. Because nothing says fun like a heart attack. Some people get that fix from going to haunted houses or watching horror movies, but for people like me, you think we're gonna leave the house? Horror games have been around for decades, ever since the Atari 2600. They've been a mainstay for pretty much every console since. So it only made sense that once indie games took off, developers decided to throw their hat in the horror game ring. And it's seen lots of success. Indie horror games make for some of the most popular indie games of all time, and for good reason. Indie developers could take risks that the big studios wouldn't dare to do. All they need is a clever idea and the right atmosphere, and they have a successful game. These games rely on tension, mystery, and the unknown rather than fancy graphics. As long as it's scary enough to get people talking, it's a success. One of the most popular indie horror games is easily Slender the 8 Pages. You couldn't escape this game on YouTube back in the day. Everybody was playing it. Since it's the Halloween season, I might as well face one of my biggest fears of all time, giving into viral trends. What's going on, gamers? Connor here. Today we're going to be playing Slender the 8 Pages. Slender the 8 Pages was originally released in 2012 under the name Slender. It's based on the infamous internet urban legend, the Slender Man, and it was developed independently by Mark J. Hadley using the Unity engine. The premise of the game is pretty straightforward. You're stranded alone in a dark forest at night looking for 8 pages scattered around the map. But while you do this, you're being followed. Slender Man can appear at any time. He doesn't move while you're looking at him, but if you stare for too long, game over. And with each page you collect, he gets more and more aggressive. It's a simple concept, but it's executed perfectly. The graphics aren't great, but I feel like it actually helps its case. It gives the game a grainy, dreamlike creepiness that gives you just a general feeling of uneasiness. The map's super barren and open too, with the exception of a few buildings with maze-like hallways. You definitely do not want to get trapped or cornered in them. I feel like overall this game is definitely a less is more situation. The simple premise made it easy for anyone to pick up and play, and because of that, the game was super popular. Now let's go back in time to one of the first indie games that really became popular, Amnesia. It was developed by Frictional Games back in 2010, and it's a first-person horror game with no way to fight back. Yep, you heard that right. There's no way to attack or defend yourself. The only two options you have are to run or hide. And while you go through the game, your character will slowly lose their mind. The longer you're in the dark, the more your sanity drops. If you see anything terrifying while being unbalanced, good luck, because now your screen's gonna start shaking, you're gonna hallucinate, and there's a pretty good chance you won't make it out alive. Everything in Amnesia is designed to make you feel powerless. You can try to run or hide, but that's not gonna help you. There's no cheap jump scares, but the atmosphere is what really makes things tense. There's dark hallways, creaking doors, flickering lights, and the feeling you're being watched. You can definitely see how this game influenced a lot of later indie horror games. The tension, helplessness, and psychological fear became the blueprint for a lot of indie horror games. Speaking of games that make you feel completely powerless, let's fast forward a few years and jump into Five Nights at Freddy's. It was released in 2014 by Scott Cawthon, and the premise of the game is that you're a security guard working the night shift at a Chuck E. Cheese style restaurant. But whoa, the mascots come alive at night and try to hunt you down, so your goal is to survive until 6 a.m. by doing everything you can to keep them from reaching your office. And for some reason, your legs don't work. You can't move around the building at all, you're completely stuck in your chair for all 6 hours. All you can do is look around the room, check security cameras, toggle the lights, and close the doors, but doing these things require power, which is very limited. which means you have to be very stingy with what you use it for, or Freddy will jump scare you. Having the limitation of being stuck in a room with limited power makes you feel dreadful, which adds to the horror of the game. It was super popular when it first came out. The game's mix of jump scares and mystery made it super easy to get into. Apparently there's lore too. Let's look into it.
2,000 years later.
Why is he purple? The simplicity of the game made it super easy to develop sequels for, and that's exactly what Scott Cawthon did. I swear he was pumping out a Five Nights at Freddy's game every 6 months. Scott really took one game and ran with it. You had Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Five Nights at Freddy's 3, Five Nights at Freddy's 4, FNAF World, Sister Location, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Simulator, Ultimate Custom Night, and don't forget the merchandise, books, and the movies. I want to say I stopped playing these games around the third one. They just got difficult to keep up with after a while, but I know people really seem to love the later entries in the series as well. I just want to know, what the hell is a FNAF World? Five Nights at Freddy's started off as a simple indie horror game, but turned into a full-blown phenomenon, and part of that has to do with the lore. There's simple games on paper, but there's hidden secrets, cryptic messages, and mini-games throughout all of the games that made the community obsessed with playing each entry to solve the mystery. It just shows that with the right mind at the wheel, a simple idea could just snowball into something huge. Now let's talk about a subgenre in the indie horror game industry, horror games that pretend they're something else. These are games that trick you into thinking they're part of a different genre, and then switch up halfway through. Take Baldi's Basics for an example. It looks like one of those cheap edutainment games that were popular in the 90s. But nope. If you answer the questions wrong, the teacher gets mad and starts chasing you with a ruler. You're running through endless hallways, dodging characters like a bully that steals your stuff and a janitor that locks you in rooms, while Baldi hunts you down. All of this is going on at once, and it just makes the game stressful. Definitely not a scary game unless this kind of thing freaks you out. What really makes the game popular is that it knows exactly what it is. It's not trying to be some psychological horror game. It knows it's a parody and decides to fit into that sense of weirdness, and I feel like a lot of people appreciate it for that. If anything, the anxiety you get has to do with how overwhelming it is with how much is going on at once. Doki Doki Literature Club is also another one of these fake games that are actually horror games. You're probably saying, Connor, how can anime girls be scary? Well, let me tell you. First off, it's one of those dating sim visual novel games that are super popular. You pretty much just talk to these girls and try to get them to join your literature club. I'm sure they're a lot of fun if dating anime characters is your thing. It's not mine. Unlike Baldi's Basics, where you find out right away that it's not exactly what it seems, this one has more of a gradual build-up. It builds your trust before the horror elements start. But this only works if you go into the game completely blind, and I feel like nowadays that's a bit difficult. First off, if you can read, you're definitely gonna know something's up. Aside from that, it takes horror in a completely different direction. It's not jump scary like the other games. The dialogue becomes unsettling, the music starts to get distorted, files delete themselves, and characters glitch out. If you didn't know what you were getting into, it could definitely be a terrifying experience. There's really not much out there like it. After hours of reading poetry with anime girls, I needed something a little more relaxing. So naturally, I played Outlast. It was released in 2013 by Red Barrels, and it's a first-person survival horror game that throws you into one of the worst places imaginable. A massive, abandoned insane asylum. You play as a journalist who sneaks in to investigate some suspicious experiments being ran by a shady corporation. Yeah, great idea. Go explore the abandoned insane asylum with the suspicious experiments. And you don't even bring anything to defend yourself. All you have is a camcorder with night vision and the least reliable batteries known to man. So half the game is just you frantically searching drawers for more batteries while something terrifying breathes behind you. The camera's night vision adds so much tension to the game too. It's grainy and low quality, and it makes you not want to know what's in front of you. You gotta hide. There's no fighting back. You can either run or hide inside the lockers, hoping whatever's chasing you didn't see you. Like most of these games, the atmosphere really makes the experience. It doesn't rely on constant jump scares, it helps build dread over time. Having that vulnerability that anything could find you at any time really makes Outlast unforgettable. Now let's talk about one of the more modern indie horror games. Phasmophobia was released in 2020 by Kinetic Games. It's a cooperative ghost hunting game where you and your friends investigate haunted locations to figure out what kind of spirit's haunting them. It's like playing Guess Who inside of a haunted house. What really made Phasmophobia stand out was its realism and use of voice recognition. You can actually talk to the ghosts through your microphone, asking them questions like, "Are you there? Where are you?" And the game can answer back. It's a slower paced kind of horror, there aren't constant scares, it's more about teamwork and solving the mystery. Everyone has a role. One person checks temperatures, another one records ghost orbs, and someone stays in the van the whole time. Unlike these other games, you aren't stuck alone. It's definitely a more social game, which makes things a lot less scary. There's over 12 maps to choose from, ranging from houses, farmhouses, a prison, a school, and even a campsite. There's also a bunch of equipment available for use, like firelights, igniters, motion sensors, incense, and can be used to determine what type of ghost is haunting the location. Your goal is to find 3 different pieces of evidence to see which ghost you're dealing with. There's around 24 different ghosts that you could come in contact with. It's just one of those games where you can have a lot of fun without being freaked out. It just shows how different indie horror games can be from one another. What makes indie horror games so great is that they're able to take a simple concept and make it scary enough to get people talking about and playing their game. It doesn't need a flashy budget or a AAA studio backing it for it to be a success. All you need is the right atmosphere, and people will love it. Indie games thrive on that word of mouth, so it only makes sense that horror is one of the most popular genres for indie games. Whether it's the psychological horror of Amnesia, the jump scares of Five Nights at Freddy's, or the weird horror of Doki Literature Club, each of these games adds something unique to the genre. So this Halloween, maybe skip the haunted house, scary movie, or big budget titles, because when it comes to indie horror, you never know what you're getting into. It's always going to be a fresh, new experience. So for Halloween this year, I'm going to spend it playing Five Nights at Freddy's 73.